Monster Hunter World Iceborne versus Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. Which expansion is better? This is a question that many potential buyers will ask themselves when choosing between the two base games involved with these two massive expansion titles, and plays a huge role in influencing which they decide to go with. In this video I will be going over both expansions and which areas one is better than the other, as well as which one you should go with personally. And if you want a comparison for the base games, I do have a video on my channel and I will put it in the top right in the little card, so you can go ahead and watch that if you want a more in-depth analysis of what the base games are like. Of course, this will be a shorter video as this is an expansion of the base games, so there's a lot of stuff in that video I will not be touching on at all in this video. But without wasting any more time, let's jump straight into this video. One of the main differences between the two expansions are their current states of completion. Iceborne has ran its full life cycle with no more updates to go, and this of course means no new maps, monsters or gear to look forward to in the future. Instead, everything is already in the game. Of course, on PC you will also have mods which will continue its life support, but from official content it's done. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, on the other hand, is incomplete and still has a few updates to go before they fully shut off the content production from an official standpoint. Monster Hunter World, as you'd expect, has a chunk of additional content over Sunbreak, as of course it has completed its life cycle, so that makes sense. So this is definitely something to look into when deciding between the two games, and of course it's not much of a deciding factor as it's not really too fair of a comparison. One is complete as it was released a while ago and one is still in its life cycle, but nevertheless it's definitely something to be aware of. Next up we have the type of games they are. So the expansions, of course deriving from their base games, offer varying levels of fun versus grounded gameplay. Monster Hunter Rise tends to be more action orientated, offering a faster paced combat with increased versatility as the player, and World goes for more of a grounded approach. It's much more grounded in comparison, with less versatility, likely heavily influenced by the lack of wirebug movement. I say likely, it's definitely 100% because we don't have the wirebug, and I'll go into that on the next point. And of course this does tie into levels of immersion. If you are really into immersion like myself, World is probably the one you want to go for, whereas Rise is a lot more fun and action packed and more arcade like, and in my opinion it does reduce the immersive factor a lot. Of course this doesn't make it a bad thing, but it's definitely something to consider, as if realism plays a big role in immersion for you, then you definitely want to take this into account. But regardless, both offer great gameplay and enjoyment, and for all players, if not most players, definitely can find some kind of enjoyment in both titles. The next topic of comparison is the Clutch Claw and Wirebug. Of course that is for World and Rise respectively. So a lot of players do consider this a big draw for Sunbreak, and that is the lack of Clutch Claw. Iceborne made quick monster slaying require the use of Clutch Claw to weaken various areas of the monster to optimize killing time and in general just DPS overall, whereas Sunbreak's Wirebug does not create the necessity for its utilization. In many cases, this can be seen as a negative, but some may see it as a welcome addition, adding to the gameplay complexities. As the Clutch Claw, for me personally, I didn't mind it too much. I do enjoy its mechanics, and I feel like the Wirebug and Clutch Claw, they're kind of equal for me. I didn't really see it as too big of a drawback in World for me personally. And the Wirebug, it was extremely fun, although it did really restrict the immersion area for me personally. Of course, once again, a lot of this video is just weighing up what each game has to offer and making a decision for yourself. I will be mentioning this at the end of the video as well, but make sure if you are reading the comments down below, don't take everything to heart, as some people probably will give their opinion across extremely strongly. Just make sure that you weigh the facts and then choose between the two games. Another thing to consider for when choosing between these two expansions is where your friends are at, as if you do think multiplayer is a big draw for you, especially with playing with people that you know in real life, that might be worth considering, as of course World is only on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, whereas Rise is on PC, Xbox, PlayStation and the Switch. It's definitely something to consider, as I think multiplayer does provide a massive incentive for Monster Hunter games. It is really fun to play online with, whether that's strangers or with people you know. I think it's always a massive blast, and in general just one of the big core components of Monster Hunter titles. And finally, we have the deciding factor, or one of the key deciding factors of a lot of people's choices between the two expansions, and that is how their end games are. So if you are not looking to get spoiled in any of these games for how the end game plays out, then definitely click off now, but I'm assuming you do if you want to choose between them. And this, of course, like I said, is a very key factor that you'd want to know about. Starting off with Iceborne. So Iceborne offers the Guiding Lands as its main endgame draw. This location is Master Rank exclusive, and it houses a large map that offers 4 biomes, all of which were present previously as singular maps for the player to traverse. Of course, it's not the exact same maps that you played prior to the Guiding Lands, it's just utilising the same 4 biomes that you traversed across before you got to this point in the game. The regions around the Guiding Lands have levels as well, and as these are increased by various tasks and activities, more and more new monsters and tempered monsters will begin to show their face. Exclusive materials here can be used to augment weapons for increased capabilities, and this is things such as health regen on damage dealt, increased infinity, increased raw damage, or increased defense. So in general, that's pretty much the end game of Iceborne summed up. Of course, you have the generic stuff you can do in every Monster Hunter game by min-maxing builds, creating custom builds and all sorts, fashion hunting, all of that good stuff. But I think that's a given for all Monster Hunter games, so it's not something to point out as a difference, but something to point out just, of course, that's what you're in store for, regardless of which game you go for. As for Sunbreak, this offers anomaly quests and afflicted monsters. The easiest comparison here would be hyper monsters from Generation Ultimate, if you've seen that or played that game at all. And pretty much these monsters just have increased health, and their damage output is increased as well, alongside a visual differentiation to indicate that they are an afflicted monster. These monsters provide materials just like in the Guiding Land monsters, how they provide special materials. In Sunbreak they also provide their own special materials, but in this case, instead of augmentation, this allows you to upgrade your weapon to their rarity 10 upgrades, with different monsters providing different materials as you would expect, with of course the stronger monsters providing the better materials for the better weapons. And just like with Iceborne, you can also do your fashion hunting here as well, as it does provide you with outfit vouchers, which is the key resource for getting layered armors. Of course, melding and decorations are also some functions utilising the afflicted items as well, adding some additional actions to those materials. Both of the games have a farm you can go for. One is talismans and one is decorations. Decorations do have much more of a bigger impact, so if you want a game where you're farming the more vital items, World is the one to go for. And then Rise has talismans, which makes less of an impact, but it's more so for min-maxing builds. Then Rise is the game to go for if you prefer that type of farming. Of course, some people don't like RNG in the vital areas of their customization. It's not in a really bad way. There are a lot of event quests in World. As I said, it is a finished game. There are a lot of event quests that do offer increased drop rates and just overall drops for decorations, so it's not too much of a time waster unless you have extremely terrible RNG. But of course, there are videos online that discuss this in further detail, so definitely go check that out and do your research if needed. Both games offer unlockable monsters as well at higher ranges of the HR levels, like around like 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 in your HR levels, so that is an extra incentive to work towards in both games as well. And that is pretty much both end games in a nutshell. For the most part, both games have enjoyable endgames in my opinion. Of course, different players will favour one over the other, as you'd expect, so definitely do keep this in mind when you're reading through comments. Both endgames have their positives and negatives, and it really just depends on what you value in an endgame. Do you want a new area to explore and level up, or do you want to hunt enhanced versions of monsters? Personally, I prefer the Guiding Lands, as I enjoyed the new area to explore and additional leveling system to fill my time with, but of course, as I said, it is personal preference. And with that said, guys, that does bring us to the end of this comparison. Let me know down below what you prefer from experience or the sound of, and I look forward to seeing how the discussion continues down below. Please do be respectful of everyone's opinions, as the opinion will definitely vary from player to player, so let's make sure everyone feels safe and comfortable sharing their view, and of course it will better instruct the newer players on where to go that will better suit them, instead of it just being an absolute warfare down there. So with that said, guys, be sure to like the video if you did enjoy. It is extremely appreciated, it helps out the channel a ton, and subscribe for a lot more Monster Hunter content. Don't forget to join our Discord, link is at the top of the description. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.